The Conservative Party of Canada has a new leader, and if he's to win and become the next Prime Minister, Canada could see some major changes, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's video.
Tonight begins the journey to replace an old government that costs you more and delivers you less with a new government that puts you first, your paycheck, your retirement, your home, your country.
That, of course, is Pierre Poilievre, a politician who's been rather polarizing over the past couple of years, with some people absolutely loving him and some people absolutely hating him. But now, as leader of the Conservative Party, he has to garner enough support to eventually win in a federal election, and the way he's going to do so is by talking about the issues that people care about, and let's get into those right now.
But that hope has melted into worry for many. Today, people feel like they've lost control of their pocketbooks and their lives. The cost of government is driving up the cost of living. This government, this Liberal government, has doubled our national debt, adding more debt than all previous governments combined. That means another $500 billion bidding up the cost of the goods we buy and the interest we pay. Inflationary taxes increase those costs further. Now, they plan to triple the carbon tax on gas, heat, and everything else.
The arguments he's brought up here have been the same ones that he's been bringing up for the past couple of years, and the criticisms that he's brought to the Liberal government, saying that they're spending too much money, and even though they're using this money to potentially help people through things like benefits and other social programs, that this very spending is the thing that's raising the cost of living via inflation. He's also been quite hard over the past 2 years on the Bank of Canada, Canada's central bank, that is the one that is actually making the decision to print money through their quantitative easing program, helping the government to spend more by buying Government of Canada bonds. Of course, this is an issue that's gone on in many developed countries across the world, like the European Central Bank and the Federal Reserve in the US. Many central banks have sort of taken the same approach to print money to help stimulate the economy through the pandemic, but Poilievre and many conservatives think that maybe this wasn't the right approach.
It is the most expensive government in history, and the more they spend, the more things cost. The result? Families downgrade their diets to cover the 10% year-over-year jump in food prices. Seniors delay their retirements and watch their life savings evaporate with inflation. 30-year-olds who did everything we asked them to do, got degrees, worked hard, are trapped in 400-square-foot apartments, or worse, their parents' basements, because house prices have doubled under this government.
This is Poilievre's appeal to the population, saying, okay, I'm not just the average conservative that the rich white men will vote for. Hey, young families who are struggling with the cost of living, or even seniors who are watching their savings evaporate due to inflation, you can vote for me. Or even the young 30-year-old who's done everything right, like he said, and worked through getting a degree, but you're not succeeding. Hey, if you vote for me, things will change. And of course, as always on this channel, we don't judge politicians by what they say, we judge them by what they do. And because Poilievre isn't the Prime Minister at this point, we don't really have a track record to judge him on here. But of course, we need to take a look at these policies and these promises and these ideas that he's bringing up so that we can, of course, hold him to account in the event that he is the one setting the rules in the future to make sure, hey, you said you were going to do this back then. Are you really going to do it? The same way that we do with Trudeau and the Liberal government that's in power now.
We will rekindle the hope that people's paychecks and savings can again buy a decent life. We will make government affordable so that life is affordable. We'll cap spending and cut waste to reverse inflationary deficits and taxes. That includes axing new taxes on your paycheck, gas, heat, and other essentials. It means fighting climate change with technology and not with taxes.
So there's obviously a lot packed in there, but we can get two main policy points here from this section of the speech. The first one, obviously a big one, is the capping of government spending and axing of new taxes, elimination of waste. This is one of the things that Poilievre has campaigned on to become the Conservative leader. He says instead of what Justin Trudeau has been doing and spending a lot of money on social programs to help people who do truly need the help, marginalized people who are struggling in society, Poilievre says instead of doing that, perhaps we can cut some of the spending or spend less on some of these programs, but instead through the implementation of new programs or attacking the fundamental issues that are causing people to have a harder time living with the rising cost of living, well, maybe we can be more efficient and sort of tackle it from that end instead of actually giving out money to help people. We can just tackle the root issue. Then he gets into his policy on climate and he says this is a real issue, we need to deal with it, but instead of dealing with it with taxes and sort of penalties on carbon users, instead we should focus on developing more technology to help us reduce our carbon emissions so that we're not sacrificing the industry of Canada, of this energy production that's putting food on the tables for many Canadians who have just as much of a right to work and a happy life as anyone that lives in the East, let's say.
We will restore hope that hard work will again pay off. Do you know that today, if a single mom with 3 kids earning $55,000 a year goes out and earn another dollar, she loses 80 cents of it to taxes and clawbacks, so she can't get ahead. I will reform programs and cut taxes so that when that single mother and people like her earn more, they keep more, and hard work always pays off in this country.
This is a pushback against the social safety net that's been developed in Canada over the past decades. Right now, these marginalized individuals who are struggling on the fringes of society certainly do need additional support, and that was the thought of this social safety net. But he does bring up a valid point here about some of the problems that come along with this income-tested benefit support. You see, many of these benefits, like the Canada Child Benefit or other supports, are income-tested, meaning you only get a certain amount of money if you make below a certain annual income. And then when you get above that threshold, maybe you earn a little bit more money, well, you get less of those benefits. So it sort of disincentivizes people from pushing past those barriers. Many people might relate to this. I know certainly in Ontario with ODSB, which is the Ontario Disabilities benefit that comes to people who are struggling with disabilities. Oftentimes, if they find a job that they can do, they're not incentivized to go do that because their benefits get clawed back. This is a problem that Poilievre certainly thinks that he has the ability to change.
Instead of creating more cash, let's create more of what cash buys. Think of it. If you've got 10 loaves of bread and $10, well, it's $1 a loaf. If you double the number of dollars to 20, but you still have 10 loaves of bread, well, then it's $2. You see, spending more doesn't get us more. We need to make more. So instead of doubling the money, let's double the bread. Let's remove the government gatekeepers to build more homes, grow more food, and produce more energy right here in Canada.
Here, Poilievre is talking about both inflation and productivity in Canada, which are tightly intertwined and have a lot to do with what the Bank of Canada is doing to fight inflation right now. Currently, the Bank of Canada is raising its interest rates, making it more expensive to borrow money, and as a result, more expensive to spend money. Dollars are more valuable because you can't borrow them for as cheap as you could when we had lower interest rates. This is an attempt to slow demand, destroy demand so that people are less likely to buy things, and as a result, companies need to lower the prices of things to get people to buy them, fighting against inflation. Here, Poilievre says maybe that's not the right approach. Maybe we need to focus on creating more in Canada, being more productive. If we can increase the supply instead of focusing on the demand side, well, then maybe some of these pricing issues could solve themselves. And he's going to talk about that in the context of housing in this next clip.
We need to restore the hope of home ownership. Right now, youth and newcomers can't get a home because local government gatekeepers block housing with heavy fees and long delays for building permits, leaving us with the fewest houses per capita of any country in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on. A Poilievre government will require big cities that want federal infrastructure money to speed up and lower the cost of permits and to approve affordable housing around all transit stations so that our young people can live there and don't even need to afford a car. We will also We'll sell off 15% of the underutilized 37,000 federal buildings to turn them into housing and use the proceeds of sale to reduce our deficit. In other words, stop printing money, start building homes for our people.
He touches on a key issue here and something that the Liberals have been struggling with throughout their time in power, and that's the fact that, well, the federal government doesn't really have all that much to do with housing in the individual provinces. That's far more of a provincial issue and a municipal issue. It's their jurisdiction to solve these problems. The Liberals have tried to sort of give conditional money to these provinces in the past, but Poilievre proposes a little bit more of an enhanced version of this. He proposes a little bit of an ultimatum here saying, hey cities, hey provinces, if you want our federal dollars to build more infrastructure, build roads, build bridges, build more fast high-speed transit, well, you're going to have to make these changes to your housing policy if you want our federal dollars. He also points out how hard it is to build housing here in Canada, and that's for a number of different reasons. He specifically points out the issue with these individual cities that have a long turnaround time to get the permits that are required to build properties. Then you also have the environmental issues, right? Like lots of spots in Canada are locked into very small areas and trying to prevent urban sprawl, and as a result trying to sort of save the environmental zones that are surrounding major urban centers. So if Poilievre wants to deliver on this issue, he's going to have quite a challenge fighting against these previous norms.
We learned during COVID that we can't count on the rest of the world to take care of us. That is why we must be the best place on earth for workers and businesses to build factories, mine critical minerals for electric cars, and develop other resources. Right now, we lose wages because we import 130,000 barrels of overseas oil, mostly from dictators, every single day, even though we have the third largest supply right here in Canada. And that is all because our government prefers dirty dictator oil to responsible Canadian energy.
Here he talks about using more Canadian oil in Canada, but I think it touches on a larger issue. I think we can all agree that everybody wants more sustainable energy that can last for the long term, that can not damage the planet. I think that everyone, both conservative and liberal, can agree with that, but I think the way that we get there is what people disagree on.
We will bring hope. We will bring hope to doctors, nurses, engineers, and others who are immigrants to this country but are blocked from working in their professions for no other reason than that they come from another country. We'll team up with provinces to guarantee that within 60 days, an immigrant applying to work in their profession will get a yes or no based on their tested abilities, not based on where they come from.
He goes right into a subject that many people wouldn't expect from a conservative acceptance speech, making Canada a better place for immigrants to come to by making sure that the skills that those immigrants have developed in their home countries to be more applicable to Canadian standards. Right now it's extremely difficult. Perhaps you're a doctor in another country, but you have to go through all kinds of red tape to become re-certified in Canada. Instead, Poilievre is proposing making that more of a streamlined process so that people can come to Canada and be productive and help society at large as soon as possible.
Small government makes for big citizens who own their homes, build their dreams, raise their families, look out for their neighbors, and earn powerful paychecks and savings free from inflation and overtaxation. We will restore Canada's promise in a country where it doesn't matter who you love, or if your name is Smith or Singh, Martin or Mohammed, Chang or Charles. A country where the dreamer, the farmer, the worker, the entrepreneur, the survivor, the fighter, the ones who get knocked down but keep getting back up and keep going can achieve their purpose. A country where the son of a teenage mother adopted by two teachers can dare to run for Prime Minister of Canada.
Here it seems like he's saying, while I might be more hard line on some of these issues than the Liberal government, I'm still a politician you can vote for no matter your race or no matter your sexual orientation. Certainly something the Conservative Party has sort of struggled with in their identity. We saw Erin O'Toole sort of shift more to the left on some of these social issues, and Poilievre says, hey, maybe we are somewhere still over on the left, or farther left than we certainly were, and this can be a Conservative Party that can sort of fight for issues no matter of your creed, race, sexuality, or what have you. I was very interested by this entire speech because we've got to take a look at what he's saying now so that, again, we can hold him to account if he is in power as Prime Minister of Canada. Mark your calendars. You need to go back to this video in the future if that is something that happens so we can see, hey, what was he saying then? What's he saying now? Because this is the standard that we hold our politicians to, right? We've got to look at what they're saying and does it match what they're doing? And that's what we do here on this channel. channel. A lot of the time we watch these clips on the news and we sort of see the highlights, but again, talk is cheap. When you see action, that's what you can actually judge people on. And I want to know what your judgment is. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this speech. What do you think of the points that we talked about here in today's video? Is this the right direction for the Conservative Party, or have they taken a wrong turn? Is this someone that you would vote for, certainly today, or maybe when we have an election in what looks like to be 2025, once the Liberal NDP deal sort of runs out? Or it could happen sooner, you never know. But let me know down in the comments. I read every single one and try to respond to as many as I possibly can. And if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because about 40% of the people who watch these videos don't click that button, and it really helps with the channel and puts more videos like this on more people's feeds in YouTube. So I'd appreciate your support. But with all of that said, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope this video helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time.